Okay, but we ended up part one light-heartedly. Now, recently there's been a very controversial thing at Cheltenham with the courtyard. A lot of people that aren't bookmakers may not know the history of it. Can you tell us a little bit about it and your opinion on it, please?
The courtyard. Well, originally, I believe there's 8 bookmakers in the courtyard, and they bet there for the festival only. And then someone got approached. I believe it was Dick and White approached the bookmakers, or may have been the bookmakers approached Dick and White. But the rules are in the contract that if a bookmaker, if there's a new area, they take a 1-for-1 off the mechanism, 1 from the ring, 1 from the rail. But these 8 took it in their own hands. They were greedy. They shouldn't have done it. They went behind the books. All other bookmakers stabbed them in the back. And as a rule now, I don't speak to the courtyard bookmakers. I dislike them. We went to court. We would have won the day. The Jockey Club, I've been told, has never won a court case. We had them beat. They were on their knees. And then for some reason, we backed down for a few sweeteners that I totally disagreed with, and I would like to take it again further, but I've been told we can't. I just dislike them, and they're out of order, greedy, and I couldn't say any more because I'd probably get locked up.
What is apart that aside? How is unity amongst racecourse bookmakers generally?
Generally, bookmakers most bookmakers talk to each other. There's certain books that don't like others, but I'm anti courtyard bookmakers now, and I try and blank them, or I do blank them. Other bookmakers are back speaking, but they've got short memories.
Well, bookmakers fall out with bookmakers aside. How often do you get disputes on course?
Disputes on course. I've been to the rooms twice. Once a bookmaker took me to the rooms, and once a punter took me to the rooms. I lost the one with the bookmaker because they said a bookmaker wouldn't ask for 300 at 13-8. It would have been 200 or 400. Well, I disagreed because he had 300, but they made me pay, and he got the difference. He had 400. The bookmaker's now not on course, or not very often. And the punter, he changed. He said I gave him the wrong ticket, but we checked with him twice prior to the ticket, and we went through the ring inspector. We went to the rooms, and it was dismissed, and I won the day.
So, what would the most common dispute be, just day to day on a Saturday or whatever, with punters?
The most common dispute would be if you've changed the odds and they're in the queue, they can see 8 on your board, and by the time they get there, they get the money out the pocket, and they give you, say, the £10 at 8-1, but it has the price has changed. Well, the machine doesn't know who the punter's going to back. Sometimes if the punter's half friendly, you would change it back to the 8-1, but often if they give you a bit of stick, you just stand firm and say no, there's been a price change, and that's how it goes.
You mentioned machine there. Do you use the exchanges as a guide?
I'm on BetDAC as a guide. You need a guide because there's no tissue. Now, when I first came out, you could get a tissue off of I think his name was Neil Wilkins, who used to work for VC also. He did a tissue which you could subscribe to, but now you're governed really by the machine. If the machine's 252, you're 6-4. You can't go bigger because the arbors would pick you off. More so in the older days, there's not many arbors now. They're more interested in the in running.
Would arbors have beaten you, or is it just a matter of principle that you didn't want to lay them because they were earning out of you?
If the book suited, I would lay them. If I wanted to lay one, you had someone called Mitch. He'd jump in and have a 600 or 4 regular. I keep thinking, well, why is he backing all these favourites? But what I didn't know is on the machine it was 2.4, so he was having an earn, or somebody was having an earn. But if the book suited to lay it, you used to lay it. It was a bet's a bet, whether it's an arbor or a punter.
And are there still decent cash punters at meetings?
Occasionally, yes. At Plumpton, a couple of 3 meetings ago, I took a £500 cash bet and a £1,000 cash bet, which normally they are quite rare now. I also now take debit cards, and someone tried to have 1,000 on a debit card, but the machine's only limited to 500. And after the first 500 went through, his bank then declined the second 500. And it was the first horse beat down the back, which is not good news.
Which leads me on to my next question. Did any of your punters ever used to get credit, and do they still?
I have got credit clients, yes. They've got to be well known. I know where they live, or friends. and I've got a few people that bet on the credit. One of my better clients is actually a window cleaner, and I've known him for years, and he is fearless. He loves the skinny ones, loves a Henderson one at 5-1 on. He thinks he's just buying dinner, can't see him getting beat, but believe me, they do get beat.
Now, you mentioned now that you know where people live. It might sound quite sinister to some people, but did people ever used to knock you? Did you ever suffer knocks?
I've only ever had one person knock me. It was a client at Paul Dogs. He was a good punter. He loved to have a bet. He fancied being a bookmaker. He tried being a bookmaker but failed. He had an opinion, but often used to run out of money. But you gave him credit because you knew he was all right. But eventually, he did knock me, and unfortunately, he died. So we had to have a claim from HMRC.
Okay, now, apart from punters that owe you dying, what's the most frustrating thing about being a racecourse bookie?
The driving through, getting held up, and you think, well, am I going to miss the pick? I've missed the pick 2 or 3 times, and it's not good. But the rules are the rules. It's an hour or 90-minute pick, and they're the same for everybody.
And what's the biggest problem facing you guys at the minute on course?
Betfair. I believe we should try and get it banned. If we banned it and went back to the old ways, this would strengthen the ring. Because a bookmaker, I used to be a bookmaker that would take lots of bets from other bookmakers who were having back bets. They would lay their 400 at 6-4, and they'd love to have 200 back at 13-8. But now you get very few back bets from bookmakers unless it's a big price and the cash flow. They need to bet it back for cash rather than on the machine, knowing that they can't get the money out to pay the punter should he win.
Now, I'm of the opinion that racecourses and racing in general don't really value what racecourse bookmakers bring to the table when it comes to being at the races. Do you think that's the case, that they're sort of undervalued?
Absolutely. We are so far at the bottom of the pile, we're almost forgot. We recently had a meeting at Newbury, and I said to the lady manager, I said, the course that's gone down the hill the most in the last 3 years, I said, you're in charge of it, Newbury. She said, I disagree. I said, well, the numbers of the bookmakers dropped down. I said, you're putting the fees up every day, the music nights keep going up. I said, and you're attracting the wrong punters for the bookmakers. I said, and whatever we say, you just don't listen.
Then what do you think that they aren't interested in, doing things to help the bookmakers? Is that?
In general, most racecourses, no. They'd like to do away with bookmakers. I used to have a friend that worked at Goodwood under Neil Fabricius, and he would have loved Goodwood to go tote only. He said, if I could do that, he said, that would be my dream. But what he didn't realise is when you go to Paris for the Arc and it's all on the tote, there's no atmosphere, there's no bookmakers, you're walking around and you get lost between the races. If that happened on the courses in England, the courses I believe would be finished very quickly.
Yeah, how many do you think would be left in 10 years if there was no bookies?
The courses, well, they're getting their payment from either Turf TV or the Jockey Club, or I've been told they get around 68,000 a day. I don't know how true that is, subject to amount of runners per race. But I believe in 10 years' time, there'll be so few bookmakers, they will pay the bookmakers to turn up. You won't be paying a pitch fee. They do that now at the greyhounds to get the 3 or 4 bookmakers for bags, because the tracks get paid from the betting shops. And I believe this will come in the racing, other than the big days. I'm a regular to Australia, and in Australia it's free to get in at all racecourses Sunday to Friday. You only pay on a Saturday or a major meeting, and then it's still a lot cheaper than it is in England, including the Melbourne Cup.
Now, there's one area where they don't leave the on-course bookmakers alone, and they do pay them a lot of attention. That's when they're sending in 17-year-old girls to have bets on busy days. How do you feel about those sort of tactics, and do you think they could be better served looking elsewhere for trying to eliminate problem gambling?
It's a big problem with the Gambling Commission. They were set up, and the bookmakers were the last thing to be put in. Really, I think they were only set up originally for what they were going to have super casinos, which never took off. And they said, well, who's going to do the bookmakers? We used to go to court and get our licence. I believe it was £25 for 3 years. The first year with the Gambling Commission, mine was £1,395 for 1 year, and I was told it would come down, but it hasn't come down. They've got to make themselves look busy, and if they're putting underage people in, we do try to stop it, because obviously it is illegal. But I've got a guy that works for me called Peter, and this was at Taunton, and he did ask a lady for ID, and I said to him, "Is there something wrong with your glasses, Peter?" And he said no, and the lady produced her licence, and she was 44 years old.
So what would you like to see done to help bookies? What could be done, one thing, apart from getting rid of Betfair, which is probably difficult?
Well, for the underage, on my last visit to Melbourne for the Melbourne Cup, bearing in mind there was 111,000 there, everybody got ID'd, and you got a wristband, which every member of the bar staff or the tote staff or the bookmakers knew what colour it was. No wristband, no bet, no drink. Why can't they do that here? Why do we have to make things hard for the bookmaker or for the bar staff? It should be just compulsory ID'd when you come in with a wristband.
Now there's another bonus, and that sounds like an idea that surely somebody should have thought of already. Now, another thing that's a bone of contention with bookies is the marketing fee. Do you get good value for money?
Marketing fee, well, I call it the mugging fee. You get absolutely nothing for it other than another bill, anything between £75 and £125, depending on which course you are. It's something that the bookmakers put in when the pitches first became available as a sweetener for the course to get a little bit extra. Unnecessary. Leicester don't do it because the manager says there, "I'm only too pleased that you come, make a book and help us tick by."
Okay, now there's a lot of punters moaning saying they get restricted for 20 quid bets even online. Obviously, you've said they can have, within reason, what they like with you. So what would you say to punters that struggle to get on to try and persuade them to come back to the racecourse and have it on with you guys?
Well, the thing at the racecourse is we are betting, the bookmakers are betting poorly. You're lucky to be betting the 1% a runner on average. So if a punter goes to 365 and you should back a few winners, you are being restricted very soon. You're getting your account restricted down to getting £1.21 on or less, or they just close you. Sky are the same. All big firms, they do not like you beating the price, whether you win or lose. You know, you can back 3 losers, but if you've taken the price and it's dropped, you get your account closed. So people sometimes do come back to the course for this reason.
Right, Bo, you've got 3 boys?
No, 2 sons.
2 sons. What would you advise? First of all, if they said they wanted to become racecourse bookies, would you say go for it or not? And what advice would you give a young person that is determined to become a racecourse bookie?
Well, my 2 sons both came into the business at 18. I trained them as best I could. They learned all the fractions, decimals, everything. But on-course bookmaking, in my mind, is a dying business. We've gone from many thousands of bookmakers, and I believe the last figure from AGT was 400 in the UK. If we were an animal, the government would be helping us far more. And I wouldn't advise it to my two sons. They've both moved on. They've both gone to Star Lizard, much better off, both working in London, love the game and in the best place. For a newcomer, and unless he's won the lottery or he's got a backing from his dad or mum, it would be so hard to get in to buy a half decent pitch, because no good having one. You need at least 14 to 20 pitches to make a living, to get your 150 to 200 days, and I don't think it wouldn't be viable for any youngster. In fact, there's no real new bookmakers coming in now. All the fly boys have been in, tried it and left.
So there's pretty pessimistic there. So how do you see the future of the betting? Surely there's a level that it won't go below.
As I said earlier, I think it will drop off, and it will be like the greyhounds. There'll be 3 or 4 bookmakers, and the bookmaker will be paid to turn up. I'm planning to probably do another 3 or 4 years and pull the plug myself. It is getting harder, and you're getting no help from the racecourse, and I can't see a future. Certainly not for my 2 boys. No way.
So racecourses and racing, we'd like to think watch these videos from time to time. What would you say to them?
What would I say? Well, they've got to come into the real world. We are part of the racing game. People like to go and have a bet with a bookmaker. They like to try and beat the odds. They like to try and have a pop at you. Especially when I'm at Fontwell and you get Pompey fans coming in. Oh, we've won off of you. Oh, we're going to have another drink and you've paid. But that's a bit of banter. I like a bit of banter, and the ring has got no characters now. We used to have a guy walking around called Johnny Lights. He used to love betting 10 on him running. Now if you want to lay one in running, you lay it on the machine. And you might be laying it to someone in Hong Kong. You don't know. There's Betfair is, in my opinion, ruining the ring, or has ruined it, and the racecourse need to change. I think they need to make the entrance cheaper midweek, or go free like Australia. They do it in Australia. Why can't we do it here and attract more people back?
Okay. On a bit of a sad note there, Bo, but hopefully people listen to you. Thank you very much.
Okay.